Welcome, everybody, live worldwide to the Jim Masters Show Live Entertainment Lifestyle Celebrity Talk Show series. It's so great to have you here. Thanks for all of the love and support of our series, as now we've done well over 1,020 episodes of the Jim Masters Show Live series in just 3.5 years, which is extraordinary. We welcome everybody that's watching all across the United States, Canada, Mexico, South America, Europe, Africa, Asia, New Zealand, Australia, our international audience. Thanks for the comments coming in. We were just checking some audio and video to make sure everything was good and everybody's plugged in. We've got an illustrious list of extraordinary guests talking about entertainment and theater royalty joining us here, with Barbara Bleier joining us once again. This is her second visit to the Jim Masters Show Live series. Barbara, welcome back to the show.
It's a pleasure, Jim.
It's a real pleasure to have you as well. Richard Maltby Jr. is back again for his return visit. He loved it so much. He wanted to be back, and we're honored to have him back here. Richard, how are you?
I am really cool. I'm doing well.
It's great to have you here. Austin Pendleton, another iconic individual joining us. Austin, this is his third visit to the Jim Masters Show Live series. Austin, it's a pleasure to have you with us as well.
Thank you. I love being here.
We love having you here. And Gretchen Cryer is here for the very first time, another brilliant and talented performer. Gretchen, welcome to the Jim Masters Show Live.
Thank you. This is my first time out, and I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, we are as well. It's been wonderful to have an opportunity to have all of you together like this, and for a very special reason, which we'll let our audience know in just a second. And also for the first time, Paul Greenwood is joining us here, a prolific pianist and composer, musical director, performer extraordinaire. Welcome to the show, Paul.
Thank you. Thank you. It's great to be here.
So where is everybody positioned right now? Barbara, you're in New York?
I'm in New York.
And Richard as well?
In New York.
Austin in New York?
In New York.
Gretchen?
New York.
Paul?
Upper West Side.
New York, Midtown, West Side.
Fabulous. Now, how did you all come together for this extraordinary presentation of Old Friends? What was the inspiration and sort of the germ of the idea initially? Barbara.
Because we're old friends.
Yeah.
Well,
Not exactly complicated.
Yes.
Austin and I have been collaborating since when? I think that the first show we did together was 1999, when I wanted to do a Richard Maltby song that needed a male singer. And I asked Austin if he'd do it with me. And he said, "You're offering me one song? And I said, well, would you like half a cabaret?" And we worked on and off for a number of years. And since 2016, I think we've been working pretty steadily together.
Mm-hmm.
And Austin and Richard and Gretchen go way back. Paul and I go way back. One of you talk about your way back history.
Gretchen.
Okay.
Welcome, Gretchen. Yes.
My memories of meeting both Richard and Austin, whom I have known for years, longer than I have known Barbara and Paul. But anyway, we go way, way back, Jim, all the way to, oh God, it has to be
1959.
1959. I was a secretary putting my husband through graduate school at Yale Divinity School. That's where, at that time, Yale did not have any women undergraduates. And so every time there was a theatrical dramat production at Yale, they had to go into the community to find women or girls because there were none. So I saw that Richard Maltby and David Shire were writing a musical and decided to audition for it because being a secretary was getting was a bit boring. So
tedious, yeah.
Little tedious. So I went in, and my first glimpse of Richard, you still look the same today, I got to tell you. I remember.
Back then?
So, you know, I remember my first image of you, and I did a monologue for Richard, and he was laughing and laughing and laughing. And I thought, well, I guess I'm pretty funny, I guess. Anyway, I got the part. I got the lead in their show, and Austin Pendleton came into the show as, what was his name? Sweeney something?
No, Monroe Feeney.
Monroe Feeney.
And I like to think it remains the definitive performance of Monroe Feeney.
Well, it was.
It has never been matched.
And the storyline having to do with Monroe Feeney was just almost.
Doing a song from that show, right?
Oh yes, we are.
We are.
The opening song in our old friends evening at Pangea is a song from Richard and David's show when they were 13 years old, or however you all.
We were at least 20, 19.
Or 19. Okay. So that's how we met. And then the crazy thing is, we have all worked together since many times. Austin starred in a show that Nancy Ford and I wrote. Austin and I collaborated on a show called Booth is Back in Town. Austin directed a show that Nancy Ford and I wrote. What else, Austin? I mean, and Richard directed a show that a collection of Nancy's and my songs called Hang On to the Good Times. And what else, Richard? I forget what else we have done. But anyway, the crazy thing is we have continued working together all of these decades. It's been decades that we've been doing that.
I do want to tell about that. That's the audition story from your perspective. From our perspective, we had previously written a musical version of Serva de Bergerac, and then hit the brick wall of trying to cast the show from Yale undergraduates. There was nobody who sang and acted. We had to get somebody from the drama school. So we decided for our next year that we would bypass this by write a musical for 2 female leads, because at least we could get somebody talented to come in. But I never knew, we didn't know who we were going to get. And people came in, and then Gretchen came in. And she started to sing. And I grabbed David Shire by the kneecap and said, oh my God, because she sang gorgeously. She was acting while she was singing. It was so real and believable. I couldn't imagine that such a creature would be available for our musical. I mean, we knew right at that moment that we were seeing something extraordinary. And, we were just sitting in a room, and in comes those things that happen in show business. In comes the person. And, your life has changed. The show is different. Everything is better. But that was what it looked like from our side of the table, Gretchen.
And I knew Paul, I think it's been about 30 years now, Paul, isn't it?
I'm sure.
Yes. See, at the time he was playing for Helen Gallagher's class, and I was taking Helen Gallagher's musical theater class. And he was the best pianist ever. He has magical chords. And Gretchen, I took a playwriting workshop with about 20 years ago.
Oh my God.
Yes.
I've forgotten
Who's
that.
Your Mama?
What?
The play was Who's Your Mama? A one-person show.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Now, for the audience watching, like I mentioned, I was saying that we have some extraordinary entertainment and theater royalty that is in this sort of Brady Bunch roundtable we have here. I'd love, usually I'll do this whole extended introduction and biography of each person, but I would love to change it up a little bit for a little variety. And maybe before we talk further about Old Friends, which is going to be an extraordinary thing for people to see, we'll tell people how they can get tickets and the dates and all. A little bit about your individual backgrounds and maybe some of the productions and projects that you're most proud of that you have been a part of, each of you, that some of our viewers might find familiar. Barbara, I'll start with you and your illustrious career.
Well, it's sort of checkered. I started out as a child concert pianist. I played Carnegie Hall at 4. I went to music and art high school. I sang, I played, I did all of that. And then I decided I wanted to become a psychologist. So I went to college and majored in that, got a PhD in psychology, and a number of years later, many years later, was asked to play and sing at a clinic's benefit. And I did, and I thought, oh my God, it's something I just love doing. And so I started going back into it. And after about 15 years of doing that, being an analyst and a singer and an actor, a card-carrying union actor, I'm proud to say, I decided that it was time to close my practice. My kids were self-supporting, and see where this world takes me. And it took me directly to Romania, where I did a play. Instead, I wanted to be able to go on the road, and went on the road. And it's where I've been since, and really having a very wonderful time with it.
Absolutely. And Richard, you tell us a little about, for the viewers watching, some of your illustrious background and some of the projects you've had an opportunity to be a part of that you're most proud of as well, and how you first got into this incredible world of art and entertainment.
You know, I wanted to be a set designer. I got taken. You know, it's everybody's story. I got taken to a musical when I was like 7 or 8, and that was the end. I was going to do that. But I wanted to be a set designer all the way through Yale. I got to Yale, and in my second year at Yale, it suddenly occurred to me that I can't draw. And
it's an expensive way to learn.
You know, and then I was going to have to create the musical some other kind of way. And to make matters worse, my roommate was a guy named John Conklin, who has gone on to become a world-class opera designer all around the world.
Yeah.
So, you know, it was like that moment in Fame where she doesn't get the job, and you think she's going to jump in front of the subway. Instead, she throws her dance bag in front of the subway and says, "Fuck it, I'll tap dance."
Right.
So it was like that. But I wanted to create musicals, and so. And Yale gave us a chance to do 2 large productions on a stage. I don't think we didn't know what we were doing, but we just did it. It was so great. We didn't know that it was impossible to do a show with an orchestra. We had an orchestra, but we just did it, and it was great. And so then I came to New York with David Shire, who's my partner. And, but we did some shows that closed out of town, and they didn't go anywhere. And meanwhile, I had started to train myself to be a director, because I thought that was really what I wanted to do. If you want to make the whole show, that's what you want to do. And I did a show of the songs that David and I wrote called Starting Here, Starting Now. And then the next year, because I've been dealing with a musical about Fats Waller, which didn't happen because he didn't have a second act. But I had all this information, and I put together a little cabaret show called Ain't Misbehavin'. And it opened, and we went in rehearsal in January with a stack of sheet music. a cast and a couple of good ideas. And 6 months later, we were on Broadway and we won every award you can win in the world. Just like, whoa. I thought that's what Broadway was.
Right.
You open your show and everybody says wonderful things about you. And I thought, okay, I can do that.
Yeah.
It turns out that's not true. And I also got a Tony for being best director. So considering I was a nobody 6 months earlier, I was willing to take that too. So, and then we did a musical called Baby on Broadway with David and I wrote the lyrics to Miss Saigon, and I played hooky on David, and Big and Song and Dance and Ring of Fire, and I directed Fosse. I am not a choreographer, I am not a dancer, and I'm putting together a show of nothing but dance.
Yeah.
With the ticonic choreographer's wife and mistress and daughter all on the show. that was a lot of fun. And no, it really was fun. So that's what I've done.
Wonderful.
And I'm still doing it.
Still doing it. There's just the short list. And the iconic Austin Pendleton, as I mentioned, this is his third time here, and he is such a dedicated professional. Folks, just so you know what it took for him to get in that chair, he was in Grand Central Terminal like 20 minutes ago. He ran. He didn't even take a cab or a train or a limo. He ran across Manhattan, stopped traffic, burst open the door, jumped into his chair, kicked the computer, and he's here to be on the Jim Masters Show Live series. That is a dedicated professional, Austin Pendleton. You are amazing. You've been stopping traffic for years, and you did it again today. Welcome as well. And for our viewers who are watching, tell us about some of the extraordinary things that you've had the pleasure to be a part of as well that they may recognize, and how you first made your entree into the industry, my friend.
Well, there was a play directed by Jerome Robbins called Oh Dad, Poor Dad, Mama's Hung You in the Closet and I'm Feeling So Sad. Off Broadway. It was the first time, and it was directed by Jerome Robbins, the first time he'd ever directed a play, the first time, as opposed to a musical, the first time he had ever directed off Broadway, and I auditioned for it, and I got the part. Now the character, I didn't really want the part, because the character, there are three leading people in it. The other two were played by two very great artists, Joe Van Fleet and Barbara Harris. And but I didn't really want, because I was troubled in my early years by talking. I mean, I had a stutter, and the character in Odad had a stutter. So I really didn't want the part, but I wanted to be in a Jerry Robbins show with Joe Van Fleet and Barbara Harris. So I played in it for about a year, and it's very hard if you are a stutterer to control it. So some nights I was perfectly fluent, which makes no sense at all. Some nights I kind of hit the nail on the head just enough. And other times I was, it got so bad that finally, after about a year, the very kindly producer of the show, T. Edward Hamilton, being an off-Broadway show, we had two shows on Sunday, and he called me, and after a Sunday night performance, I said, "We're just going to have to let you go."
Oh,
My sigh of relief kind of knocked over several people in the thing, and so I had 2 weeks to go after I got fired, and then at the end of the Sunday evening performance, which was my final performance, my friends came and we all drank and we celebrated. And then but the only sad part, I thought, well, Jerry Robbins is never going to hire me again. 6 months later, he asked me to audition for Fiddler on the Roof. And he and at the audition, at the first of the six, he's auditioned people a whole lot of times, Jerry. In fact, there's a equity rule unofficially called the Jerry Robbins rule, where after the first 3 auditions, you have to be paid, because he would audition and audition. And he came backstage after he always auditioned in a theater, which of course is very intelligent. He came running backstage and he said, you've conquered the stutter. This is amazing. Then we went into rehearsal, and there were, and by this time I had worked a whole lot on the stuttering, and so it was hard. It wasn't hardly there. It was there a little bit, and we were rehearsing 2 blocks south of Central Park in June. And he said, and we were all having lunch on the lawn in Central Park. And he said to me, I see there's still a little bit of stuttering happening. And I said, yeah, I lied to you, you know. And he said, well, first of all, it's not going to be a problem. The parts you're playing, it even can work. The part of Muddle of the Tailor. And don't worry about it. But if you do get in the block, try to move through it quickly, because the show is 3.5 hours long. And I thought that was so funny, you know. And then so I played in Fiddler on the Roof with the irreplaceable Mr. Mostel, Zero Mostel. And gradually, Jerry would come to see almost every show I was in, and he would always say, "You're hardly stuttering at all now. Less and less and less and less and less." Then Amanda Vail wrote this wonderful biography of him, and one night a few years ago, after Jerry had passed, I was reading the book, and I was reading about his teenage years, and it came out that he stuttered as a kid. So I owe my career to the fact that I stuttered. There's simply no other way of putting it.
Yeah.
So I was in Fiddler, and then I got to be on other things and so forth. And among the triumphs, for me, a triumphant experience. It was a wonderful experience that I got to be in this musical by Gretchen Cryer and Nancy Ford called The Last Sweet Days of Isaac, which started in trouble in the previews, and the previews went on for about a week and a half, and we had this wonderful director, the guy who did the Fantastics, Word Paker, and he would, in the rehearsals, I mean, in previews, you always rehearse during the day. He would run down the aisle with a sombrero and say things like, "You expect me to give you your whole performance?" Mm-hmm. And then he would give a couple of notes that would transform a section of the play that didn't work. So the show opened. Now the producers had they were concerned at the beginning of the week and a half of previews that perhaps the show wasn't going to work. And so then, so a week and a half later, we opened, and we were at the party, and suddenly one of the producers, Hyla Stoddard, said, "Oh my God, we've told a crew to come in and strike down the set. We've got to stop them from doing that." And then the show ran a year and a half. Wasn't it something like a year and a half?
Hear some music from The Last Sweet Days of Isaac if you come to Old Friends also.
Yes, right. It's a magnificent piece of writing, The Last Sweet Days of Isaac.
Well, Austin created a character there that we've never found anybody else who could have played that, and he won an Obie for that, and and got rave reviews across the board from
Yeah.
every publication in New York, at the 7 newspapers at the time that were out
Yeah.
there. And so
Well,
it is
well, a characteristic what was I trying? An outstanding characteristic of the role is he never stops talking.
Yeah.
That's right.
So, what can I say? Yes.
So maybe that voice you were hearing before was your own.
Yeah, right. Oh, brilliant.
I want to
Brilliantly
make
said.
mention too. I want to make mention, in addition to what you just said, and for our viewers watching around the world, Austin Pendleton also is known as a prolific character actor, and on stage and screen. In his 6-decade career, he's had roles in some of your favorite films: Catch 22, What's Up, Doc, The Front Page, The Muppet Movie, Short Circuit, Mr. and Mrs. Bridge, My Cousin Vinny, Amistad, A Beautiful Mind, which earned him a Screen Actors Guild Award for Outstanding Performance by a Cast in a Motion Picture. And also he's been in Finding Nemo and so much more. He got a Tony Award nomination for Best Direction of a Play for the Broadway revival of The Little Foxes in 1981, starring Elizabeth Taylor. He received Obie, Drama Desk Awards, and Outstanding Performance for The Last Sweet Days of Isaac. And that's just the short list. Directing the off-Broadway revival of Three Sisters. Credits include Choir Boy, The Minutes, Between Riverside and Crazy. That's the short list, folks. He's been busy. And thank you for that, Austin. We appreciate that. And Gretchen Cryer, so wonderful to have you here, gracing us with your presence on the Jim Master Show. Tell us about some of the things that you're most proud of and how you first got started, introduced to the industry.
All right, but first I have to just add to Austin's resume there. The reason that he has such an incredibly long resume is because he is always doing at least 4 to 5 things at the same time.
Absolutely.
Always
Yes.
acting in something, directing something, writing something, doing a cabaret act with Barbara, and teaching. All things at the same time. So
Same
that's
time.
how that kind of thing happens.
Yes.
And we all know, because we've all suffered trying to get his attention for something. And he's always off doing something else. Anyway, the way that I began is entirely different from everybody else here, because I was from Indiana, out in the country, outside a town of 200, where there was no contact with theater whatsoever. And strangely, it must be in my blood, because when I was 5, I wrote my first play for and my brother, who was 3 and 2, he was 2 at the time. And my first play was The King and the Fairy. And my brother, who was 2, was the king. And I made a little crown and I set him in the middle of the stage. And his was a non-speaking role. I danced around him and sang and talked. And I made my costume out of Kleenex and stuff, so it's all fluffy and everything. And and then our parents came, our audience was our parents. Again, we were out in the country. There was nobody anyplace around. My parents came and we charged them a nickel a piece because we were raising money for groceries. I remember. Anyway,
I know. We used to do plays in the garage and plays in our bedroom, and we would string a rope up in the bedroom, and we would have the bed would be the stage, and the our parents' chairs as guests would be on the other side of the bed. We'd have this rope, and we'd have one of the blankets or sheets going across, and that's what we would pull across when my sister and I would do the plays. And and I just remember one time my mother says, "Wait a minute. Oh, those are good sheets."
Oh my God, Jim, we're kin. We started out the same way.
That's it, right?
And I just loved performing. And actually in grade school, I got the second grade teacher to allow us to put on plays every Friday, which we wrote. We
Wow.
second graders wrote our own plays, and she let us do this. Anyway,
That's great.
fast forward to, I was in the high school plays and stuff. I went to DePaul University and met Nancy Ford. Our freshman year, we were in the same dormitory, and Nancy was this consummate musician. And we decided to enter the contest for music. They had a contest for people to write musicals. Completely, it was a student thing. It had nothing to do with the faculty whatsoever. And we, along with 3 other writing teams, wrote shows that first year, and we won. And so our show got put on. And then the following year, did the same thing. We put on another show. So, I was performing in college too, just singing in a singing group. Then met the man that I was going to marry, David Cryer, who was going to be a minister.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, okay, I'm going to marry this guy, and I will put on plays in the church basement. And so we got married right after college, went to Yale to graduate school. For him, again, I was a secretary, and then that's where our paths then all met. So then what happened is David decided not to be a minister, that he wanted to go into show business instead. So he did, and we came to New York. Nancy, same thing. Her husband, both of them were in Yale Divinity School. Both of us married ministers who then quit the ministry after a year at Yale. And we all came to New York. And so I just kind of rode in on the coattails of my husband, because I would have never had the courage to decide I'm going to New York and I'm going to write shows. Never would have I. So I'm so grateful to him for bringing me along there. Our marriage didn't last, but I am forever grateful to him for that. So then Nancy and I kept writing shows. Oh, the chorus girl then. My first job in New York was I was a chorus girl and got pregnant simultaneously. So I worked pregnant through the first 7.5 months, had the baby, and then came back and went right back into the show. The show was Little Me, working under Nancy, and then got into another show as a chorus girl, 110 in the Shade, and then another. Then I was a standby in 1776 for the 2 women in that show, and then that was the year. Oh, and David took a business partner, Albert Poland, and they produced the first show that Nancy and I wrote, which was Now Is the Time for All Good Men. And I ended up, we cast other people in the 2 leading roles, but what happened is that the leading man couldn't cut it. So David went in, and then a week before we opened, the leading lady totally lost her voice. So I went in and I changed my name because it looked like a vanity production, because my husband was one of the producers. I had written the book and lyrics, and then I went into the show and he was in the show. So I became Sally Niven. The show opened. Sally Niven got rave reviews. And Barbara Harris and Catherine Harris, all kinds of people. Anyway, but Gretchen Cryer did not get good reviews. So I totally made it screwed up. I should have, as a writer, been, wait a minute, yes, I should have been Sally Niven as a writer. Sally disappeared from the scene. Nobody's ever heard. And they probably wonder what happened to her, because she was so a spectacular actress. So what happened? So anyway,
This story.
I can't even remember what happened. Oh, then we did Shelter, and Austin directed it.
Mm.
Nancy Ford and I wrote Shelter, and Austin directed that. Now that was on Broadway
Mhm.
the entire month of February in 1973.
It got Tony nominations.
It
Yes.
actually did, which is
Yeah, it
really
did.
interesting. Anyway, and then after that, Nancy and I then did a couple of albums for RCA, and we traveled around doing these songs that we called a scrapbook of our lives. And that is how the idea for I'm Getting My Act Together happened, because I'm Getting My Act Together is about a cabaret singer who is trying to get rid of the old definitions of what it is to be a woman and so forth. And she's doing her new act, very metaphoric here. So, and then that opened. And even though it was totally panned by all the critics except for one, it caught on, and it ran for 3 years here and a year in Chicago and a year in LA and then all around the world. And so that's the one that has run the longest. And then
It was produced by Joe Papp. Right?
oh yeah, always produced by Joe Papp. And you know, any other producer would have closed it right after the reviews came out. But he thought there was a market for it. And so he kept it open. And by the end of 6 weeks, we were selling out because he got this idea about we'll have talk back Wednesday night. And Wednesday night started selling out first because at that time there was such electricity about sexual politics. And this was about sexual politics. And, you know, fights would break out in the audience on Wednesday night during the talk back. And we'd hear a woman say, "Don't touch me," and her husband or something like that. But so that was very electric. And that is what then propelled us into this long run. So, and then since then, Nancy and I wrote a couple of shows for American Girl. We wrote a show about Eleanor Roosevelt, which has almost gotten on by major producers 12 times. And
It's a fantastically good show, Eleanor.
And Austin was going to play Albert Einstein in it, a perfect role for him.
Typecasting, yeah.
We were going to call it Einstein and the Roosevelts, but we changed it to Eleanor. But anyway, it's a great show. But you know what? If that show ever gets on, Nancy and I can write a book about how it almost was done 12 times by major people, starting out with Joe Papp and Manny Eisenberg and Hal Prince. And we have a whole list, and Marty Bell 3 times. And it never got on. So, but the book will be very exciting, probably more exciting than the show itself, about how it didn't get on all this time. So that thing took up, you know, the Eleanor Roosevelt show has taken up a major part of Nancy's and my lives, because if nobody had liked it to begin with, we would have dropped it and just gone on. But because each producer was going to do it, we kept trying to do it. And I wrote a different version for every single producer. I have a stack of scripts here in my shelf that is this is the Hal Prince version. This is the every new producer wanted me to tweak it in a different direction. So we have infinite variety of versions of that. Oh, and then we've written a sequel to I'm Getting My Act Together. Same characters 30 years later. Haven't gotten
Here, songs
Still
from-
Getting My Act Together.
Wow,
Right?
we have two songs, Barbara, is that right?
That's right.
From that show in our old friends thing. We don't have any Eleanor songs in there.
Or Albert Einstein.
Or to Albert Einstein, which is amazing. You know, I was really interesting. We're still working on the television piece. It's a news piece. And I was sent just about a month ago We were filming in San Francisco, Pittsburgh, Phoenix, and then I was sent to the University of Maryland to interview this extraordinary, renowned physicist who left Korea in the 50s to come to America because he was enamored by Einstein. And he actually wanted to follow the same path as Einstein. He was actually in North Korea first, and then the family left, and then he was in South. Then he made it to America, and he went to Princeton, as did Einstein. But then he found through his research, and he's about 89 now, but in his research, and we're still working on some of the details, but it's extraordinary. He found a hole in Einstein's theory, an actual hole in his theory. And Princeton didn't like that or understand any of that. So they asked him to vacate. I mean, his professors and everybody leave this university. And he ended up doing that. And he was lost and he was devastated. And he ended up going to the University of Maryland as a physicist. He's now retired, professor emeritus. He's got his office and his lab there. But he lost about 20 years of promotion and advancement because nobody understood it and people shunned it. Now they do understand. And he was, accepted into the world of the University of Maryland. But an extraordinary story. Could you imagine finding a hole in Einstein's theory?
No,
He's just it's just really extraordinary, absolutely extraordinary. I want to make mention for the viewers too, that the apple does not fall far from the tree because Gretchen's son is the extraordinary actor, John Cryer, who you've seen on television and movies and so much more. He's on set right now. They're filming, of course, CBS 2.5 Men and all these iconic series. He's been doing it a very long time. He's a great actor. And they just did, I was telling Gretchen, which she saw too, a phenomenal piece on him and his life on CBS Sunday Morning. If you didn't see that, folks, I would encourage you to check that out. You got a very talented son there, Gretchen.
Thank you. He's
and as a little boy, he was so shy. I remember.
Yeah. Well, but he found himself. We went to Stage Door Manor, upstate. That camp.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I went up to see him when he was. To see the show he was in. Well, he was in a show called Earthlings, and he had one line. He had to come forward and say, "I am a very rich man."
Yeah.
So here came Johnny, walked to the front of the stage, and he had kind of long hair, and he did his hair out like this. "I am a very rich man." And he brought the house down. The biggest laugh line. And then when we drove away from the camp at the end of the summer, the girls were following Johnny, Johnny, Johnny. And so that's where he found himself, really with Stage Door Manor.
That was amazing. And people, of course, remember him with Charlie Sheen and CBS 2.5 Men for years and so much more. And he's welcome to pop on as a guest anytime. The door is always open for him. And thank you for that story, the wonderful story about some of the things that you're the most proud of and how you got started. And Paul, welcome as well. And tell us about your extraordinary musical background and how you sort of fell into this wonderful world of entertainment and music and some of the projects and productions that you're most proud of.
Yeah, but I sort of did fall into it. I feel like I played by ear as a child, and it was sort of a party thing. And I got kind of serious about it in high school. I had never read music, and I learned to read music very quickly so that I could audition for a conservatory, which I got into in Boston. However, shortly after I arrived in Boston, I started doing gigs sort of around Boston and out of town, and I didn't last too long. And then I came to New York and started doing piano bar work. And at that time, these showcase clubs like Catch a Rising Star and the Improv and the comic strip, and I don't know, so many places. That was where a lot of my friends were performing there. And I didn't really know what I was going to do. I thought I was going to wash dishes or wait on tables, but I was really afraid. I knew I could wash dishes, but I was afraid if I waited on tables, I'd be spilling things all the time. So a friend of mine said, well, you should accompany singers, you know, which I was terrified because I'd played for myself and I sang, but I never did it for anyone else. And so I got together with a couple people and then started playing in the showcase clubs. And the people that were coming up at the time, there were people I worked with like Jane Oliver, Ellie Stone, Pat Benatar was just kind of starting, other singers later on. I became the house pianist at the improv, at the improvisation. And so I was there during the whole comedy boom. And people like Larry David and Jerry Seinfeld. And I remember when Richard Pryor made a comeback after his accident. So I was there for 5 years. And then I started doing cabaret, which was something that was kind of, it sort of fit me because you do so many different kinds of music, you can. And it's very intimate, which I love. And when I first came to New York, 2 shows were very prominent in circles. And one of them was I'm Getting My Act Together and Taking It on the Road. And the other one was Starting Here, Starting Now. And I first played Starting Here, Starting Now in a wedding band in Boston. That was the first time I heard the song. And then I came to New York. I ended up working with people from that show eventually, Lonnie Ackerman and Marjorie Cohen. And then I played at HB for years for Helen Gallagher's classes where I met Barbara. And Helen Gallagher was on a soap opera called Ryan's Hope, which Nancy Ford, Gretchen's writing partner, was one of the writers on the show. So it just feels like it's all come to. I auditioned for a show that Richard was directing called Living Dolls. That was at Manhattan Theater Club, wasn't it?
Right. Gotcha.
And I was playing an audition for someone, and Richard asked me if I would consider auditioning myself, which I did, and he was very kind and encouraging, and I've been playing for all kinds of people ever since. I don't even know where to begin.
You know your audition hasn't gone well when the director gets up and hires your accompanist.
Yes, I'm still friends with the person that I played for that day.
Paul is going to be singing one of the songs in Old Friends. He's not singing Old Friends, but he's singing a song that was in The Last Sweet Days of Isaac. And he's wonderful.
He's wonderful.
And Gretchen is doing the part that Austin did.
Oh boy, that's amazing. Thanks for sharing that, Paul. The Old Friends is something I know is very, very exciting because it's backed by popular demand, right? Sold out shows in New York and a critically acclaimed show in London. And of course, all of you beloved actors and writers and performers, musicians, songwriters. It's extraordinary that you're bringing together this evening of song and friends. But tell us a little bit about the actual show. What was the inspiration to put it all together? And what can people expect who maybe haven't had a chance to know about it until tonight?
Well, I don't know what the inspiration was because somehow, Barbara, did you just call me up and say, would you do that? I can't remember how that happened.
I think Austin and I were talking about it because we did a Maltby and Shire show. And we also have done a lot of your work in our cabarets. And we just thought about inviting you both to come and be our guests. And it just was such a joyous experience all around.
So when people go, what is the evening like? And tell us about some of the songs and what you're incorporating into the actual show itself.
Well, there's a a number of songs from shows by Gretchen and by Richard and David. There are also some songs from other people. There will be duets. There will be trios. There will be quartets. There will be stories.
That is fantastic.
I would say
did I leave anything out?
what I think is a distinctive about it, and we didn't plan it this way. It just sort of turned out. But by taking sort of our favorite songs from our work and from our collective work and shows that we're all connected with, they're all dramatic songs. They're all songs that tell a story, that are kind of complete within themselves. So even though it's on the one hand a cabaret evening and a nice place where you can have a dinner and see a show, it's what you don't sort of expect is that it's really kind of moving. These songs are, they're songs that nobody else would have written, and they're very personal, and they're very they tell stories that are really touching and that everybody connects to. It was a surprise. I don't think we set out to do that, but that's what we ended up with.
And some of the songs are funny, and but as Richard said, they all are little dramatic scenes. All of the songs are.
It's really true. I'm so glad you mentioned that. It really is such an important part of the piece.
Yeah. So you actually have the feeling, having sat there for through an hour, a show that's an hour or something long, that you've been through a play. It's the sort of feeling that you get when you're doing it.
You've all had and continue to have these extraordinary careers individually and also collaboratively. What is it about this particular show, Old Friends, with all of you coming together, especially at this time? We've been through so much in our lives the last few years. The world seems upside down. And here you have your legendary backgrounds, and you've come together to put something really loving and warm and fun and inspiring and heartfelt together, which I think a lot of people will plug into and relate to and crave more of. And I think it's a beautiful thing to put this together and to share it with the audiences. What is it like coming together with all of this experience that you have and everything we've been through to do a show like this at this time?
Well, I think it's really fun. I mean, it's just been fun to do it. And I couldn't wait for us to do it again.
Me too.
So there is that. And also, you know what? I think it's fun with all of us being the age that we are still having so much fun doing this kind of thing. And we are continuing to do it.
Yes.
Austin's still doing 4 things at a time. Richard just had a new show filmed and done yesterday. We're all operating on all cylinders now, and and that's what's fun as well.
Yeah.
It really is, yeah.
And even though Barbara just got sucked into an escalator, and
yes, this really happens.
She's to be there.
As we mentioned, there was this diamond ring on the other side as the escalator was going up, and she tried to reach over for it, but it just got away. That's it.
I think it's also true. We bring experience to our the songs and being sort of emotional stories. We really understand what those emotions are by now. It took us a while, but we finally got there.
Yeah, and we're still discovering them.
We have some wisdom. Bring some, as Gretchen has.
One of the songs is Wisdom
Wisdom is so sexy.
Yeah, what about
Wisdom is so hot.
Yeah.
And of course, it's only true of women.
Also,
Men
you know,
find wisdom in men is boring and rather useless. But with women,
It's sexy.
it's a joy.
yeah.
Interesting.
You know, it's nice because you really are, you know, old friends and good friends. You all respect each other's talent and you have a fondness and affection for one another. And I'm sure that is what also translates for the audience. You're not just a bunch of people who've been thrown together to take on these roles. You genuinely appreciate each other's, one another's company, and you all add your own nuances to the performance, which I think is what really adds to what the audience gets from it, right?
Yes, I think so.
And that makes a world of difference.
Also,
Reviewers
it's
have
important these days that people be friends.
Yes, 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 new and old. Yes, absolutely right.
Friendship is, if there's an answer, friendship is going to be a big part of it.
Absolutely. We
I
got
also find that
there's the dates for everybody and how you can get tickets as well. You were saying, Richard?
I'm just saying that we also share the same kind of artistic sensibility.
Yes.
There were a couple of moments when we were rehearsing and Gretchen was doing a song that she had written, and I thought, if I had had that thought, I would aspire to write that song. That would be, you know, every word of the song is absolutely perfect, and the depth of feeling underneath it came from her. It would never have come from me, but it was. But I could have written that if I'd had that emotion. It just, I think we have the same sensibility about what musical theater is, why we do it, and so, I mean, I just sit there marveling at the songs everybody else is singing in the show.
Yeah, me too.
Me too.
Wonderful.
Do you have an idea of some of the names of the songs too that people might be familiar with?
I don't know. I think maybe the thing familiar about them is probably
Old friend.
Friend, yes.
And I don't know. I think that people are going to hear some songs that they may not have heard before,
Which is great.
Yeah.
Some that aren't published.
Yeah.
I mean, Gretchen and Nancy have this song called "Old Friends" that is just the definitive song about people who stayed together as friends for a long time. Through each one's life changes, they somehow are
And
always there. And it is so profound. It is so definitive. You know, no one ever could write that song or anything like it. It's done.
And you're bringing together these wonderful, you know, songs with charming the audience with the old songs, published, unpublished, trios, quartets, comedic banter that has the audience sort of falling in love with the characters that you're bringing to life. And one of the beautiful things too in London, I know that there was a quote from J.C. London Large. Barbara and Austin recently made their London debut to reviewers' acclaim. A British critic in Britain says, in Britain, the term national treasure is rather often tossed around, but we'd say this duo would seem to qualify. When you hear the critically, acclaimed words, these words from folks that are, in this industry, how does it make you feel?
Wonderful.
Yeah, huh?
Really wonderful. And it also makes me wonder, does that make me an honorary Brit?
Yeah.
Well, you are definitely an honorary Jim Masters Show lovety. All of you are. And our viewers who've been commenting as well have said that, which I think is a beautiful thing to have. There's Tonys, Grammys, Oscars, Emmys, Peabodys. But when you get a Levity on the Jim Masters Show, most of the guests say their feet start tingling. Are your feet tingling,
Yeah,
gang?
I was wondering what was happening.
They are, but it's not
Yeah.
levity.
Well, one of the guests said he started levitating as well, but
Levitating.
levitating. Yeah, that's right. I'll ask each of you before we wrap. Why do you love doing what you do and do so well? You've been doing it for a long time. The world needs what you do. And I'll start with you, Barbara. Why do you love this? Why is this such a blessing and joy for you? Not just old friends, but just what you do.
I kind of see myself really as a communicator, and when I communicate with music, it's like my whole soul is there. I don't know how else to say it, but it just being able to say what I want to say, thanks to these wonderful composers, some of whom I know and some of whom I don't, with wonderful music and with Paul's amazing chords in the background. It's the closest to heaven I'll ever get.
What a beautiful thing to say. Absolutely. And Richard, how about for you?
Oh, I don't know. There is something about creating, putting together a kind of a dramatic monologue that turns out to be also a song that is complete within itself. When you stand up in front of an audience and go through it, you share yourself in some incredibly intimate and fulfilling way. It's like you meet a person and you find yourself telling some long anecdote about your life, basically spilling out everything that you feel as a character, as a person, and those songs sort of do that. And I always quip that we go into this business in order to connect to people, but when it happens, we're never there. We're just people sing some of our songs at weddings and at funerals and they touch lives. They listen. I mean, loneliness is the basic human circumstance, and this makes us connect. And, that to be able to do that and to feel it happening while you're doing a song is pretty untouchable.
Beautiful. And Austin, what are some of the blessings and joys that you experience that keep you creating and sharing and doing the extraordinary work that you do?
Well, I'm from Warren, Ohio, and my mom had been a professional actress and director before she married my father. She was beginning to have quite a career. And then she got a great part in the national tour of of the hit play, The Children's Hour by Lillian Hellman. And she was terribly excited about that. Then the tour was canceled because 2/3 of the town on the tour found out the play was about was a compassionate portrait of a lesbian, and they refused to have the play in their town. And so my mom thought, this business is kind of unstable. So she married my dad. Then after World War II, people from the community started a community theater, and they would rehearse in the evening in our living room. And my brother and I would set up the furniture, and then we would be supposed to go to bed, but then we would come down. Alec and I would come back down and hide behind furniture and watch them rehearse well into the evening. And it was you saw real friendships developing among these people. And you saw that that the fact of being in these plays was they were finding a place for themselves in the community. So the friendships were profound. And I remember being so excited by that. That's where it all started.
That's beautiful. And it continues today. How about you, Gretchen? The blessings and joys in your life that keep you connected and creative for the good of all of us.
Well, there's something that happens when I'm writing something that doesn't happen just in my life generally. I feel as though I don't know where it's coming from. It's a channeling of something, and it's just the best, most amazing feeling. And it's the sort of thing that now, if I go back and I read one of my things that I've written, The Last Sweet Days of Isaac, I think this is really strange. I don't know where that came from, and I don't know it, but the joy comes from just like opening the channel and allowing this stuff to come out, because I sometimes look at something that I've written and thought, did I write that? Who wrote that?
You're sort of like the facilitator of this energy that flows through you and out.
That's exactly it. That's what it feels like to me. Yeah. And the thing is, when you say, where is the joy? And so that's where the joy is. It's so amazing. Every time that happens, it just feels like, oh my God, where did that come from? Thank you, wherever that came from.
That's wonderful. And may it continue for many, many more years. And Paul, how about you? Some of the blessings and joys that allow you to continue to create and do what you do so well.
I think these other four people have said everything that I feel about it. It's a channeling in the moment with an audience and with the people on stage that you're working with. We never know exactly what's going to happen when we perform, but we're all together in it, and we create something, and the audience creates with us, and it's really special. And it's always, when I perform with these people, I always feel like there's an opening of the heart. It's always touching and surprising, and I can't wait to do it.
And if folks want to have an opportunity to experience a taste of what we've been talking about, here we have on the screen dates, phone numbers, websites, address, the time. We got it all covered for you here. Again, critically acclaimed. Everybody very excited about this. And we have, as I mentioned, decades of incredible talent on our screen here, and folks who have a real love of the arts and entertainment and performance, and they've been doing it for a long time.
Thank you for doing what you do.
Thank you, Jim.
Yeah, Jim.
So beautifully.
Absolutely.
I appreciate that. My father has always given sage advice, and when I was 7 years old, we carry the same name, James Masters. I'm like the fifth. Goes back to England and Ireland. And I remember this advice that I still hang on to today. 7 years old, he says to me, now, of course, he wasn't 7, I was. He goes, just so in case anyone just tuned in late. Jim, whenever anybody says something kind or nice to you, be sure you always thank them for those words, and then ask them to please put those words in writing and address it in an envelope, address it management. It's 7 years old, that advice, and it's so true today, isn't it? Thanks for the words, put them in writing, and please send them to management. Somebody that pops in once in a while, and he figured he would pop in this evening. I think Barbara might have seen him. Richard might remember Austin. Mr. George Burns is with us.
Oh,
I played for him
There
twice.
he is.
yeah. Oh,
He
yeah.
absolutely loved the conversation. He's an old friend as well.
Yeah.
And he sends his love. Mr. George Burns in the house, huh?
Thank
Can't go
you,
wrong.
George.
Yeah, can't go wrong with that. Thank you, George. He's going to step down below. He's got a martini down below here, so he sort of, sips that during the show. We also wanted to just take a quick moment to say our respects, pay our respects to Ralph Lampkin,
Oh, yes.
who passed away suddenly this year. And Ralph was a very big supporter of our show, and he sent quite a few guests our way, and he's connected us with a number of people as well. And we were shocked and saddened to learn of his passing. So we wanted to dedicate this episode with all of the wonderful friends here to another old friend, Ralph Lampkin, again, who at a very young age of 66 passed suddenly back in June. And to his family and his friends and everybody, we just wanted to say he's greatly missed. He was an extreme supporter of the arts and theater and entertainment and so much more. He was a big, bold, vivacious character. And when he believed in something, he was on your side to the end. And he will be greatly missed. So we think of Ralph and his family at this time.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Jim.
Absolutely. And just want to show on the screen, gang, for everybody watching. There you go. There are the particulars. Old friends joining us here on the show. New friends joining us here as well. You're all welcome to come back for some more levity and conversation here on the Jim Masters Show live series. Anytime you guys want, collectively, individually. As I say, we always keep the porch light on for everybody. And this was a wonderful conversation. I wish you nothing but continued success. Have a phenomenal show. And come back and see us again. And I hope you enjoyed the time with me as much as I have with each of you tonight.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jim.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Jim.
You are very, very welcome. Barbara and Richard, Austin, Gretchen, and Paul, all lovities here on the Jim Masters Show live series. Thanks for your time, your wit and wisdom. And we'll see you again real soon, old friends.
Great.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Take care. Levity to all, right? All right. And one by one. And then there are, right? Boom, 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 boom. And Barbara, thank you very much. So good to see you again.
It really is good to see you too.
Love you and all. We'll see you soon. Cheers. And take care of that arm.
Yeah.
That's it. Bye-bye now. Amazing, incredible group here on the Jim Masters Show live series. Great friends, old friends, and an extraordinary show that is coming up, gang. I encourage you to get those tickets. And here you go. There are the opportunities you see on your screen there. It shows you the time. It also shows you the phone number and also the website that you can go to. And it's going to be amazing. Right in New York City. Old friends coming together and incredibly talented friends as well. We talked about, we just really scratched the surface of their incredible, iconic careers individually. And to have them all come together on this episode was something very, very special. We thank everybody joining us, Austin and Barbara and Gretchen and Richard and Paul, being here, part of the Jim Masters Show Live Entertainment Lifestyle Celebrity Talk Show series. This is really, really wonderful. I do want to let you know as well that tomorrow, the iconic actress Linda Gray is here. You know Linda, of course, from Dallas, Sue Ellen Ewing, but also she is in a beautiful, new, fun Christmas movie with Morgan Fairchild and several others. Going to be on the Lifetime Network. We look forward to that. Then another dear friend, Marie Nesbitt from Celtic Woman, Celtic violinist. She's going to be with us on Friday. Yes, coming up Monday, iconic actor Stuart Pankin is going to be with us as well. In December, iconic actress Sharon Gillis is going to be on the Jim Masters Show live. And from the wonderful group Celtic Thunder on Monday in the afternoon, Irish tenor, world-renowned Irish tenor Emmett Cahill is going to be with us as well. Those are just some of the guests. But tomorrow, iconic actress Linda Gray will be here live, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, on the Jim Masters Show live series. One more time, we thank Austin and Barbara, Gretchen, Richard, and Paul for stopping by. Barbara, this was her second visit. This was Austin's third. Second visit for Richard, and first time for Paul and for Gretchen. And wow, it was really a wonderful conversation. We don't script anything here. It's all conversational, warm. It's all free-flowing and ad-lib. That's why we don't call these interviews. We call these conversations. Here you go, gang. Old friends. There are the dates, the times, everything you need. If you have folks that are in the tri-state area, let them know about this as well. Show them this episode. This episode of our show, the Jim Masters Show Live series, is archived on our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV. You can see it again. If you joined us late and you want to see this episode again, you can certainly see it again on our YouTube channel. Share the link on your social media as well. As a matter of fact, if you enjoyed this episode, help us grow and reach more people, give this episode a like. There's a thumbs up button on the YouTube channel. Give it a like. Leave a comment on the YouTube channel. Interact with us. Share this on your social media. And subscribe to the YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV. That takes the village. And thanks to everybody around the world who has done that. Thanks also to all the Lovedies watching around the world. We love this. And oh, yes, Cora True Frost. And this is Leo. They're Leon True Frost. And Austin is my friend. It was great seeing him. Absolutely. Austin is everybody's friend. And he's really a class act. And look at all these great comments coming in here. Good to see you, Cora. Good to see you, Leo, as well. The guests are always amazing because they know how awesome you and JMS are. Thank you, Kathleen Walker in New York City. I appreciate that. And everybody, we appreciate all your comments as well. Get out, get those tickets and enjoy that fabulous show coming up, Old Friends, with this iconic group. Wonderful cast and wonderful performers. This is your host, Jim Masters, thanking you for your time this time. Till next time, come see us again. If this was your first time watching the Jim Masters Show Live series, we welcome you. And you can also binge watch over 1,020 episodes we have done in just 3.5 years. That's a lot. And enjoy. For all of us here, thanks for being with us. We love you all. Take care of one another, love one another, and don't forget, take care of yourself. We'll see you again soon on the Jim Masters Show Live. Cheers.